Hello, everyone. Welcome back to CXO Conversations. I'm so excited for this conversation today because there's some new research that we're going to uncover. If you don't know me yet, my name is Klaudia Tirico, and I'm the editor of Demand Gen Report. So welcome. With me today is Integrate's CMO Deb Wolf. Deb, it is so great to see you again. I think the last time we saw each other was just a few months ago, actually, up in Boston. But it's so great to see you. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. Super excited to be here with you and share a little of this research and some perspectives for sure.
Yes, I'm excited. But before we dive into this research, I'd love for you to just tell the audience a little bit about yourself and Integrate, of course. I'd love to hear, about your role as the CMO, how long you've been in this role, and what some of your top priorities and key learnings are so far.
Sure. So I have been the CMO at Integrate for just about 2 years. I joined actually right at the start of the pandemic, which is a crazy time, of course, to start any new job. It was a wonderful time to start a new job at Integrate because I was very familiar with the company and a super fan of Integrate's. I had been a customer 3 times over at my previous 3 companies. And for those of you that don't know Integrate, we are an omnichannel MarTech platform. Demand platform is probably the easiest way to think about us. Prior to my time at Integrate, I held CMO roles at a company called BetterUp, a mobile coaching platform, and Lookout, a mobile security leader. And prior to that, I was at Workday for just about 9 years, where I ran corporate marketing, which included everything from demand gen and integrated marketing and creative services, the website, digital operations, et cetera. And I guess the thing to know about my career prior to that time at Workday was it was very brand focused. I had spent the early part of my career at ad agencies. I had been at PeopleSoft and Commerce One during the .com bust, and really running brand and advertising creative service teams across all of those B2B companies. And at the time I went to Workday, in 2006, it was really the advent of marketing automation. And so we had the great fortune of building the Workday marketing engine, the lead gen engine, the website, everything else, with marketing automation in mind. We really started it at that time. We bought Marketo. We were a very early Marketo customer. We had a pipeline to build for a very young but growing field. And so very quickly overnight, my role and my focus changed from traditional brand and advertising to digital demand, and really the technology that really was born of that time and has grown and changed and morphed over the last 15, probably going on almost 20 years now. And when I think back on that, I think what a great opportunity to sort of make that change in your career and to be able to grow with what's going on in the marketplace at that time.
Awesome. That's an incredible story. Clearly you are a veteran in the space, so it's so great to have you. And I can't believe how much has changed, even in just the last year and a half alone. So much change, so much transformation, but the best part is watching marketers and just the industry in general really rise to the top and be innovative and get creative and agile. So just so many great, a lot of bad happened the past, year and a half, 2 years, but a lot of good came out of it as well. You guys recently launched a research report with Heinz Marketing, right? Big shout out to Matt Heinz at Heinz Marketing.
Yep.
And it uncovered the various challenges facing today's B2B marketing teams. And I'm sure there are so many of those types of challenges, especially, with what's been happening. The research actually found that 60% of respondents are not entirely confident that their marketing strategy even their technology and team structure effectively support their marketing goals. And it's actually, that percentage is even higher for ABM and revenue teams, right? So was this surprising? Was this surprising to you, or is this kind of in line of what you're seeing or experiencing, with peers?
Well, it's interesting. So let me back up and give you just a little bit of background on the study,
Yeah.
why we did it, why we wanted to understand what was going on with marketers. Of course, the last, 18 months aside, things have been pretty crazy for B2B marketers. They're under a ton of pressure. They're under a lot of demand for demand. Their worlds have changed. There are new roles obviously opening up. The role of ABM didn't exist if we think back 5-6 years, right? Now we see ABM marketers and whole new roles in marketing technology and marketing operations organizations. And so then you pile on the pandemic on top of that and where companies are today. And during that time, many of our customers, had shifted budget from things like in-person events, of course, into digital. We were really seeing changes in the spend, in where the makeup of what they were doing. We were seeing teams reacting differently, and we really wanted to understand that. One of the great, just sort of opportunities as the CMO of a MarTech company is that your customers are your peers, your friends. They're people that I've been on teams with. Workday's still a very good customer of Integrate's. And these are, my people that are still there, that are still doing the same kind of thing. So we really wanted to understand that. We wanted to understand where these companies were on a marketing maturity curve and what the pandemic had done to that, if there were any changes. So that was the impetus for running the research in the first place. And you're right, we saw some really surprising numbers. And the numbers for that sort of uncertainty and uneasiness around ABM and revenue teams with their strategies and what they're working with. 87% of ABM and 74% of revenue teams reported that they're not confident in their current marketing strategies. We do hear this. We hear this isn't this the great panacea? I was supposed to do ABM. That was going to solve what I needed. And what are we finding? We're finding that yet again, it's not the great panacea. It's not the only thing you need to do. Part of that is, I think these results sort of underscore that ABM is just not a standalone strategy. It's not a digital advertising strategy. So when we think about attracting those accounts, when we think about looking at accounts with intent, that is a great start. But accounts don't buy, people do. And oftentimes in these very large enterprise deals, you have multiple people from multiple different departments that are really trying to think about what that new system is, what that new solution is that they need. And taking a list of accounts from sales or even from intent is a great start, but it's not the only thing. We have to activate those buyers. We have to think about where they are. We need to talk to them in all of the channels that they are participating. And so that's why an omni-channel buyer-driven approach is really how I think our buyers are thinking today. And, what we really try and think about and what we help our marketing customers think about is, how will you approach your buyers where they are? How do you make the approach to your marketing journey or their marketing journey a buyer-driven approach? So are you talking to them on social? Are they in your blogs? Are they on your websites? Are they going through your virtual events? Will they eventually be coming back to your in-person events? Yes to all of that. When you look at a B2B marketer's toolkit, it's not enough to do single channel marketing. It's not enough to work in a silo. And so one of the things we really wanted to underscore in this research and understand was, how are these teams thinking about their approach in this new world where buyers have gone so incredibly digital, so incredibly anonymous, so much further into a process that used to be a traditional selling process.
Yeah, that's very interesting. It's definitely in line with what we're seeing in the space too, with our own research as well. It's that, you have to hit those buyers wherever they are. And there's more than one person on that buying team, right? And you have to be able to cater to almost every single one of them. And it's hard. Plus, I'm sure there's a generational gap in those buying groups as well, too. You'll have some millennials coming in, and then you have some real veterans that have been around for some time that are maybe a little harder to kind of, persuade, right?
Absolutely. And they have different needs depending on their part in that buying cycle. I mean, you could be, I'll use my Workday experience. You could be selling an HR solution and you think you're selling it to a HR department, but you've got to deal with security. You've got to deal with privacy. You've got to deal with IT. You've got to deal with finance across a long 9 to 12 month enterprise buying cycle. Those people have different needs, different content that they need, things that they used to be able to get from traditionally from a salesperson in a conversation or in an all-day briefing center visit, that in today's digital world, they're looking for that information themselves. So as marketers, it's really our responsibility to step into that sales cycle and provide those buyers with the answers they need at whatever point they are in the buying cycle.
That's that's interesting. And were there any other, specific challenges that were uncovered in the research? Did any respondents kind of dive deeper into some key things? Are there any underlying issues? I mean, I'm sure sales and marketing alignment is still a struggle, right?
For sure. We really looked at the 3 areas of marketing and marketing teams and such. One was the org structure of marketing teams, how they're organized today, how they do their work, what kinds of collaboration is it requiring to do some of the things that we're talking about? What are those technology stacks and what do they look like? How siloed are those? If our org structures are siloed, or is our technology siloed as well? How do we report off of those? And then finally, what's their strategy? How are they aligning their strategy with the business goals of the organization? Are they aligned with the business goals of the organization? And when things change so rapidly, like they did in March of 2020, how do they realign those? And I think we found a couple of, very interesting things around the misalignment and the fatigue plaguing marketers today and marketing teams today. If you're not aligned with your sales organization or you're not aligned with the overall company goals, it's really hard to see the rewards and reap the rewards of what it is you're trying to achieve. We found a lot of that there was misalignment in organizational structure, that there were still siloed organizations. I think that's what I hear the most from CMOs when I'm talking to them today is, how do I get my team to have a different mindset around what we're trying to do? I understand this buyer's journey and this idea around building for the buyer, but my event person's over here, my social person's over here, my demand and digital person's over here. How do I get those people talking together? So that was one thing we definitely uncovered. And then, we heard a lot about connecting that strategy to, and by the way, the technology follows all of what I just said, but then connecting that strategy to the greater operational strategy of the business. So I think, CMOs have to ask themselves, do I have the right people? Are they in the right jobs? Do we know what we're trying to achieve together? Are they sharing those goals across the team as well as across the company with their counterpart organizations, whether that's product or sales? How do I connect in this buyer's journey with my customers? How do I make these experiences as personalized as they can possibly be? And then how do I connect my channels? How do I think about that event, that person that maybe came in from a virtual event, presenting them with display advertising, building out the buying unit with content syndication? How do I think about connecting all of that together in a process that makes sense for the buyer and that my people can actually work through themselves?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday too, and the end result was just like, wow, marketing's really hard. Your jobs are really hard.
I got to tell you, Klaudia, the first slide in our deck literally says marketing is hard. And you have to ask yourselves, or we have to ask ourselves as marketers, are we set up to fail? I mean, we have very siloed technology. We have very siloed teams. We have groups of people that we're trying to work in service of a buyer, with kind of with our hands tied behind our back. And so for many marketers, I think this is the core of where they try and start and really think about the conversation that they want to have with their team around starting to think horizontally rather than vertically in that single silo that they may own. I hearken it back to the budget sheet. I think the budget sheet is the evil of all things because everybody gets a little bit of the pie. You know what you're supposed to do with that, what you're supposed to drive, but it's really hard to think about that from a buyer's perspective. And the buyer doesn't know where they are on your spreadsheet or in your process or on your site, right? They just know they're looking for information that they need.
Awesome. So I'd love to hear, obviously there are, a bunch of concerns as found in the research, and, the confidence is kind of low. So how can B2B marketing teams better evolve with the times and boost their confidence? Even specifically, I'd love for you to share, how you guys are doing it at Integrate.
Yeah. So we found in the study that the most successful marketing game changers are optimizing for connected strategies, organizational structure, integrated technology. It seems really simple. It's like, yeah, those are the three things. We get it. That's what we're supposed to be doing. It's really hard to do in practice, right? And then to put that in a process where you're actually buyer centric, putting that buyer first. I'll tell you, with my own team, we fight these same battles, right? The things we have to talk about all the time. We try and get, and it's challenging in this world that we're living in today, certainly from the standpoint of, hey, I'm on Zoom calls all day long, or I'm trying to do this with a team I haven't even met. I mean, some of my marketing team hasn't even had the opportunity to work in person together. But we spend a lot of time really focusing on those personas. Where are those buyers? What do they need from us? What are they thinking about? How do we interact with them? And we really try to deliver an omni-channel focus to where we are, so that messaging they may find in social meets the messaging they're finding in an event, meets the message that they're finding in a digital ad. And we nurture and deliver touch points designed around those buyers' needs, interests, and behaviors. And if you don't start with those buyer personas, it's going to be really hard to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like the key here is audience centricity, right? You want to
That's
focus
right.
on the people buying versus focusing on the product that you're selling,
That's
right?
right. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. Any other interesting findings that came out of the research that you'd like to kind of just share and give some insights on?
Yeah, again, I'll just reiterate this idea around 60% of marketing teams reported that they were not in alignment with their department goals with the company goals. And that was one of the surprising things to me, because I think many of our B2B marketing friends work in companies that have MBOs, companies that have OKRs, right? So there is something coming down from above that is a company goal, whether that's around driving revenue, whether it's around improving brand, whether it's around awareness goals. I mean, all of these are things that we look at on an annual basis from an executive standpoint. And so I was surprised to see that so many teams are still, focused interdepartmentally, but not really focused on connecting those with their peer groups and product or sales or other teams. So, I think that alignment is just super, super important. And it's really the foundation to breaking down silos and having better coordination and communication across all of the company. I mean, how can B2B marketers defend their spend and what they're driving if their metrics don't align to a unified revenue goal with their sales team? It's just impossible to do that. So I think really sitting down with your marketing ops teams, your sales ops teams, your finance ops teams, understanding what you're trying to do, connected at the hip from a demand standpoint, a contribution standpoint, the metrics that you're looking at, we're all marching towards that one goal. And really that's the company's goal.
Very interesting. And, at the end of the day, it's also nice to hear, veterans like you in the industry have the same challenges as new people coming into the world. So guys, you're not alone in this. Everybody is really struggling in the same, right?
Yeah, it's just so nice for me to be able to talk to other CMOs. It's kind of this, it's a dream to be a CMO at a marketing technology company, because you get to kvetch with your peers. My goal is to make it better for our customers, certainly, and to help them along the journeys that they're on and help them reach their customers. And I have great empathy and a listening ear for the position that they're in, because I am in that same position. My the marketing ops person I have at Integrate has been with me for quite a long while. We've been at 5 companies together, and when he and I started just about the same time at Integrate, one of the things we desperately wanted out of our opportunity here at Integrate was to help people just like us figure this out and make it a little bit better. And so we spend a lot of time talking to customer teams, really helping them think about how they can improve that customer experience, how they can drive an experience that matters, that starts a relationship with a brand and that they, are super proud of. And so, it's an honor to be in this role. And I do take it rather seriously. My whole team takes it rather seriously, but we like to have a lot of fun with it too.
Yeah, that's great. And at the end of the day, yeah, you're selling a product, right? But then once that product's sold, you're more of like a team with your customers, right? You're helping them, they're helping you, and at the end of the day, everybody wins. I wanted to touch.
I'll just say, sorry, just a
Yeah, go ahead.
for us, our Integrate customers. We are amazingly blessed with customers that give us so much great feedback into what we're building, what their pain points are, what they really need in market, how we can make it better for them. So when I tell you I spend time with them, it's so enjoyable because I understand what they're, it's the first time really in my career where I've really understood from customers because I share their desire for what it is that we're all shooting for together.
I love that. I wanted to touch on one specific kind of tidbit from the research that found a large majority of the respondents said that they still use basic lead generation as their main measurement of marketing. So I'd love to hear your take on this. Is this very, very problematic? How can we kind of refocus this measurement to focus more on revenue generation?
Yeah, I mentioned that when we started this research, we really wanted to look at where marketers were on this maturity curve. And when we look at this maturity curve, we take that from what we consider an ad hoc kind of approach to what you're doing in marketing, all the way up to what we call precision demand marketing, and how we think about that precision from a buyer centricity, what you're really able to do from an omnichannel perspective. And there's a couple of, stops along the way as you progress up this maturity model. And what we saw, I think somewhat driven by the pandemic and this craziness of, wow, my event budget just went away. And for a B2B marketer, in-person events are part of the lifeblood of their connection to the field, right? You think about our field marketers who are out there, our event marketers who are out there, and our sales teams. I've never had a sales team say to me, oh, I don't need any more in-person events. They all have desired, whether it's a lunch and learn, whether it's a breakfast, whether it's an executive event, a field event, or your big conferences and user conferences and things. So you have these B2B marketers who are like, wow, that entire channel went on ice. What do I do with all of that lead volume that I needed, right? How do I replace that? And what we saw were a lot of people putting that into digital. Certainly that was one way, and buyers moving there. So that was a great way to help fill that void. But the mindset shifted. And I think that's the important thing to think about in what we're talking about around these lead vanity metrics, which is how much can I fill into this funnel? And that's a very ad hoc approach. It's not connected to anything. It's about driving quantity over quality. And, we saw even some of the most mature marketing teams take a very ad hoc approach during this time. I think what you're seeing is a shift back to, hey, how do we connect to our buyer in this digital world now? As events come back, how do we not leave them out on the island they were on? How do we bring them back into a digital journey? How do we take what we find at in-person events and then surround them digitally to help nurture them along that journey that they're taking? So, where we really think about what used to be, I think, lead metrics are very top of funnel metrics. But when you look at what we're doing from a marketing standpoint across all of these channels today, you see people, buyers in all of those different channels at various stages in the buying process. So no longer is it about driving a lead to drive an opportunity to drive to sales. It's about contribution across all of these different channels and using them in a way that helps orchestrate and move them along a buyer journey, a buyer driven journey.
That's interesting. And I've also been noticing, even in some of our ABM specific research, is that a lot of people are doing a blend of it, right? They're doing a blend of ABM and
Yes.
traditional lead / demand generation, and it's kind of working well there.
That's 100%. That's exactly where we're focused. I mean, there is a high desire to find those accounts that are in market today with intent data, with technographic data, all the things that we, know we want as marketers to reach those buyers who are ready. Certainly we want those. but that's usually about 15% of the market at any given time. And what do we know? Our numbers go up every year, right? They don't usually go down. They don't stay the same. And so how do we prepare the next generation of buyers to be ready? How do we early nurture those folks? How do we start bringing them into our world? So you have to have both. You have to have an account-based focused strategy, say that. And you have to be open and ready for new buyers who are coming in to nurture those folks along the way as well. So I think that is, that's probably the blend that we're starting to see marketers go to. Marketers like to shift, right? We swing with the pendulum back and forth, and ultimately I think you need both. And so you have to look at it from both sides. And that's really what precision demand marketing is all about. When we think about how we focus on meeting the buyer where they are in their journey. They may be very early in their journey, an educational, starting to look around, thinking about this, or they might be ready to buy. They're ready to get into the market. And certainly I want to talk to both those people. We want to have different conversations. The path looks different. There is a different nurture strategy around that, whether it's digital or whether it's through marketing automation or whether it's through any number of the channels that they're just starting to think about. We really think about precision demand marketing as the highest level of that marketing maturity curve that I talked about. It's really about targeting the right buyers and the right accounts, activating a multi-channel campaign to meet them where they are across all of those different channels that you as a marketer might be using and that they're in, connecting those channels together, both from your team perspective, your technology perspective, your reporting perspective, measuring that cross-channel process for greater visibility into your performance, and then really governing that data at the heart so that when you're talking to those folks, you know who they are, you know where they are, you know that those are good, solid people to be talking to. You've done all the things you need to be compliant with, with the world that we live in. So I think, it's this approach that really allows marketing leaders to be more flexible and more connected and more agile. And, and ultimately, I think what we really found out from our research is if you want high performing, sustainable teams, you've got to empower them to deliver the kind of work that's going to make a difference within their buyers' journeys and within the work that they're doing. So I think, when I think about teams and accounts that are doing this, and it's the very large, of course, marketing teams where it's harder and they really have to think about connecting those teams, but they also have to think about connecting geographies and buyers. But it's also the smaller and growing organizations that have a little bit more power over the opportunity to work closer together and as a team and build the technology stack to do that.
Awesome. That's great. And my next question was for you to elaborate on precision demand marketing, because I do feel like that's definitely the way to go. So thank you for that. I wanted to
jump right in, Klaudia.
I love it. Next question for you. I do want to talk a little bit about, your own experience as a CMO of Integrate. What are you prioritizing? What do you look for when it comes to gauging success of your team's marketing efforts? What keeps you up at night?
Oh gosh, lots of things keep me up at night. Usually it's my college age children. That's a whole other for sure. With my team, look, I'm super blessed to work with the people that I work with. I think that they're in the trenches every day. They're trying to make it work. They're connecting. The thing I love about my team personally, and I think teams that are super successful, is that they reach well beyond what would be considered marketing, right? Well into the sales process. How are things working? How do we work with our customer success teams? How do we think about the buying journey long beyond what marketing is delivering as a first, last, or contribution across the entire opportunity. But when I really think about these guys, I think about their morale, their retention, their productivity, their effectiveness, the fact that they are growing their careers. We're in a crazy time. Everyone is talking about the great resignation. You and I don't need to rehash it. It's a real thing. People are moving around. Everybody's either decided they're bored at home and they need a new challenge, or they just need a new opportunity. And so, I think about my team's mental health. I think about their ability to get things done. I think about how they, when we can get together as a team and work in a room together and knock down some of these things on a whiteboard again. And we've done some of that very early on. We found that, we've seen in surveys recently that marketers, I think, are the second highest plagued group of burnout, behind tech professionals in general. So if you're a high tech B2B marketer, you're like triple cursed, right? So, my team needs to feel supported. They need to feel connected. They need to know that their work has purpose. I mean, they need to feel good about what they're delivering and who they're delivering it for. And so, those are the things I want to spend time with my team about. The rest of this is what we do, but who you do it with is what matters. And they're important to me as people first, more than anything else.
That's great. And I can't agree more. I mean, it's, everybody thinks like, oh, you're working from home. That's great. It's probably so easy and you could do whatever you want. But at the end of the day,
Right.
we end up working way more than we would be at the actual office.
100%. And I mean, we've had so many countless conversations about Zoom fatigue and about, not getting back together in person and, working with people we've never met. And these are real conversations. I mean, these are, things that certainly across our executive team, we're talking about all the time. And I, we have been super productive. I have no doubt that my team is working as hard, if not harder, to your point, than they ever would have if they were in an office. I happen to have a super remote team anyway, so many of them work from home, as a regular process. But getting them back together and spending time together is, I think it's a cure for lots of things that ail you, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely looking forward to more in-person things as well. All right, Deb, coming down to the wire here, I'd love to just hear, what's next for you and for Integrate.
Yeah. So let's see. We have our Game Changer Conference, which is, I'll do a quick plug for. It's happening virtually on December 8th in the US and December 9th in EMEA. And we have an amazing lineup of speakers. I'm super excited about this for some of the topics that we've been talking about, Klaudia. I think, the idea around burnout and change and, really reinventing yourself in the face of change. We're kicking off our conference with 8-time Olympian Apollo Ono, and he'll be spending time with our Integrate CEO, who is also an Olympic skier, Jeremy Bloom, and they'll be talking about what that's like to compete in that face of change and as things are, under extreme circumstances. So super excited about that. My dear friend, Dr. Jacinta Jimenez, who's a personal coach, a leadership coach, is going to be talking about burnout. We've got wonderful customers joining us, and we'll also be joined by Matt, who'll be reviewing some of the research we've been talking about, as well as Craig Rosenberg from Gartner, who will be helping us think through what to prepare for 2022, which I can't even believe we're saying. It feels like we've lost 3 years. So we're super excited to bring these folks together to talk about, what it's like to transform organizations and really think about what's coming for the next year.
Wow, that sounds awesome. And as soon as we jump off this call, I am going to register for that event.
Please do. We would love
I will.
to have you, for sure.
We would definitely check it out. That's for sure. Well, Deb, that's all the questions I have for you today. Thank you so much. This was a really awesome conversation. As always, it's great to see you. And thank you to everyone watching. Awesome.
Thanks so much, Klaudia.
Thank you. That is a wrap on another episode of CXO Conversations. Hopefully, we'll see you next time. As always, just going to throw this little plug in, hit the like/subscribe button to our series so you don't miss any new episode drops. And of course, find me on LinkedIn or Twitter if you want to, be a guest on the show or just, have some suggestions or ideas and somebody who would be a great fit. So looking forward to hearing from you. Again, thank you to Deb and thank you to our audience for watching. I will see you next time.